morning, everybody. Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I am Dr. Marianne Pinkston, and I'm going to bring you a new series of Mind, Body, and Spirit. And so my first guest in this series is going to be Rebecca Fitzsimmons. Now, this is a very interesting kind of take on a medical show of mind, body, spirit. And this beautiful lady that we were about to visit with has a very interesting background. She's got a website called tacticalharmony.com. Very interesting name because she has tactical science and history behind her as an NCIS Special Agent. So Mind, Body, Spirit, she's going to lead us down a little bit about leading us to the right path mindset-wise. She's got some leadership history. She speaks, she writes books. So she's got a book, Unleashed Holistic Leadership Insights, as you said, from our canine companions, which we're going to talk about. I'm very interested in that. And so I'm going to provide a link to her book and things like that. But from Montana this morning, Rebecca Fitzsimmons, good morning. Welcome in.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here.
Well, I am happy to have you. Now, you've already kind of let the cat out of the bag with the NCIS history. And so, tactical harmony, you've got an interesting story behind you here. So explain who you are and how you arrived at the place that you are now.
Yeah, I am. I'm pretty unconventional, and my professional trajectory has been wild to say the least, but I am so darn grateful. But yeah, just high level overview of who I am and how I got to where I am today. So I actually have a degree in forensic and investigative science. And so I specialize in all things crime scene investigation. And that really kicked off my professional career and what that looked like, where I was going to go. And so I ended up doing an internship with the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, also known as NCIS, which really just gave me that insight into what's it like to be a federal agent and travel and see the world. And so after that internship, I was sold. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So welcome to the next almost 15 years of my life where I was a special agent with NCIS. And that took me around the world. I had the honor and privilege to serve in so many of the states here in the United States. I was stationed in Italy for many years at our Europe and Africa field office, where I had the honor to, support countries such as Ukraine and Romania. I'm drinking out of my Romania cup right now. And the Netherlands, Belgium, and it was just such a beautiful experience supporting, our foreign partners and maritime security and supporting all of that. It was just a beautiful experience. And ultimately, I got to a point where I was stationed in our Marine Corps West Field office, which is in San Diego, California. And I was second in command. So I was the assistant special agent in charge. And I had this intuitive nudge. What would it look like if I served in a different capacity? What would it look like if, another agency, or maybe jump in the private sector? And so I asked myself a series of questions to try to really figure it out and see what else I could do. And it was a big decision, because my entire life I've only known federal government. I've only known criminal investigation, counterintelligence, and counterterrorism. So those are my specialties. And ultimately, I arrived to, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow that internal nudge. And so I left NCIS about 15 years. And I joined a technology company where I am in a senior leadership position. Talk about a transition.
I
Talk about a transition.
Military to corporate. That's a big step.
Like a huge step. And but so many lessons, because what I realized, and this ultimately leads me to how I created and opened my business, Tactical Harmony, is that holistic leadership is the same. It doesn't matter what country. It doesn't matter what level. It doesn't matter if you are a Fed or if you're in the corporate sector, if you're a CEO, if you're a Lance Corporal, if you're a special agent. None of those things mattered. Holistic leadership principles applied to everybody. And when I realized this, I'm living it, I'm embracing it, I'm embodying it. I'm so passionate about holistic leadership, mindset, and all things holistic leadership. I knew what I had to do. And so I created my business, opened it, Tactical Harmony. And so I'm a holistic leadership coach. I speak. I wrote a book. I have clients where I train them on all these timeless, tried and true strategies. And so, yeah,
Nice.
it's been a wild ride. I'm so grateful. If you would have told me a few years ago, Rebecca, you wouldn't be NCIS. You're an entrepreneur. You open, I have my own podcast and you'd be talking to amazing individuals such as you. I don't know that I would have believed you. Like, wait, what? But
Understood. And, here's something that I think is so important that you kind of bring up. And I think many people get to a point in life. I'm the same way. I've done this for, almost 30 years in the medical field. I had a clinic and there's just a calling inside. There's something that just says, I'm not done yet. I always imagined when I was a kid that when I was 50, and I'm 55 now, when I was in my 50s, that, I was almost dead, right? I mean, when you're 20, you're thinking that's it. You're at the end of your life. And that's absolutely not the truth. Here I am trying to re-envision and reinvent myself. And I think we do this at different periods in our world, in our lifetime, reinvent ourselves. And I think it's a very scary thing. You nailed it right on the head. It's like if you had imagined, and say I'm the same, that I would be doing what I'm doing now, a few 10 years ago, a few years ago, there's no way no way in hell is what I would say to my friend sitting next to me. There's no way in hell I would think that I would be doing something different like this. So that's kind of something I feel like that's reverberating from you. And I know there are many people out there who are thinking like that. I really want to do something different. How do I pick myself up? How do I move forward with a dream? I have children. Am I going to upset their life? I have, a business. Am I going to upset that? There's a lot of fears and bravery, I think, that goes into making that kind of a transition. Do you find that to be true?
I absolutely do, 1000%, because it really is an emotional roller coaster of sorts. Because our brains and our subconscious mind, it's Jurassic. It's meant to keep us in the known and familiar and to keep us safe. So anything outside of what we're used to seeing, what our normal day to day is, especially when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s, right? Like you've repeated the same patterns for so long, it's part of your
Right.
blueprint and operating system. So when you do something and like, ooh, your brain says, I haven't seen this movie before. Ooh, no,
Right.
no, no, get back in your box. Like, come on now, you could get hurt. So when you recognize that, and when you bring that to your radical awareness into your conscious mind, you can then start to differentiate, okay, this is my brain trying to keep me safe. A
Mhm.
little bit of fear, no big deal, because I can hold hands with fear and move forward anyways. I'm good to go. Or
Right.
is it something else? And right, so we have to have that moment of introspection and to kind of dissect and distill all of the things, because what we don't want to do is play it safe or play small when we're meant to be so much bigger and step into the fullness of our gifts.
Absolutely, so well said. And I think about it too because, and this may not be your field, but I think about people who have also been through a lot of trauma, maybe a bad childhood, just a terrible, decade of problems or whatnot, tend to fall back to a safe zone as well, even though it's maladaptive. They may not be able to undo some of the patterns that they developed that were maladaptive while they were being, in the middle of trauma or being traumatized. And that is another place where people tend to regress to and not open up and move forward. And I think that, I deal with a lot of different types of people. I deal with people at high levels who want to, develop a new, be a leader and develop a new business, all the way to people who are just trying to get out of a bad marriage or, a bad, try to heal from a traumatic situation or whatnot. I think it takes all of those things to escape that safety and that programming. We program ourselves to be safe against trauma, against change, against whatever, like you say, makes us feel unsafe. We're programmed to keep our keep our behaviors in line with whatever keeps us, holds us back and keeps us safe. And so, is that something you deal with often? Do you deal with people who have experienced trauma?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. All sorts of trauma and how you could define that from something that, was horrendous in their childhood or maybe something that occurred when they were an adult. or witnessing something. So secondary trauma, and especially, coming from law enforcement, we see a lot of really, really bad things. There's no other way to dice it. So that is something that we can't bury. We can't, be an ostrich and put our heads in the sand. We have to be able to face those things. And, I always kind of refer to it as slay your dragons. And so we're all on this hero's journey, right? So we're starting off, we've got some problem or something we're going after. We meet beautiful people along the way. And then we have this either internal or external battle. And then we win, we have the revelation. It's amazing. We celebrate and then we go back through it again. But crucial parts of that, like any movie, any story, is you got to face them. And it can be really, really tough, right? Life isn't fair. Life is going to bring you to your knees, but it truly is how we respond, how we harness our mindset and our personal power, that we can take it back, that we can claim it, that we can not care what others think, that we can not play the victim and kind of exist in that victim mentality. And again, I say that with love because people go through a lot of really bad things. But we cannot create from a place of lack or scarcity. We create from a place of abundance and empowerment and feeling invigorated. So when we claim that, despite what happens to us, we maintain that personal power, we define the ordinary, and then we're postured for success, whatever that looks like for you in your own trajectory.
Absolutely. So how do you take people from that storm and help them, find their greatness? What are your steps?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of strategy to unpack, and I tailor.
Good question.
It's so good. So I tailor everything when I work with, especially when I do one-on-one clients, and I'm still offering that now, but I tailor it to what that person needs. But high level overview is we all have limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Every single one of us, it'll pop up. It's something we can suppress. We can, transcend, because we're here to transcend our struggles, but we all have limiting beliefs. So bringing that to our awareness that I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I have self-doubt or a lack of self-worth, because why is that important? I only get what I think I'm worthy of. My vibration and frequency has to match what I'm trying to call in. This is science, right? Like I gave this example recently, if I were to go in a music shop and pick up a guitar and play the D string, every other guitar's D string would also resonate, because it's all frequency, it's all science. And so we love that, right? So if we can understand that and subscribe to that, then we know that we have to consciously create our reality. So we have to bring those fears and doubts and those low negative frequency emotions like anger, shame, fear, guilt. Maybe you're not even aware you have it, which means you got to dig it deep, right? Like we can't just cut the weed on the top. We got to dig in and grab that weed out. And so we have to bring this to our conscious mind, which takes some time. Yeah. It takes some work. But once we do it and we realize, oh, I didn't know I was operating like that, or I had no idea. It's like this revelation. And then you become aware and you can quiet that negative voice. You can quiet that negative belief, because despite it, I'm still doing the thing that scares the hell out of me. Despite it, I'm still going to put myself out there and open my podcast. Despite whatever it is, I'm not going to let that hold me back. Again, I redefine my relationship with it, and I'm going to move forward anyways, because one thing I love to shout from the rooftops is courage is not the absence of fear. It means you have it and you move forward anyways.
Exactly.
That's what it means. And so really the mindset work, bringing those to the surface, really kind of reprogramming that. And then the words you tell yourself and the words you tell others are absolutely huge, because again, it carries frequency. Your word is your wand. So if I beat myself up, if I'm self-critical, if I'm a perfectionist, and I used to be this, so I can like totally relate to people like this. I'm going to behave, and what I'm calling in and how I set my intentions for the day, it's going to matter, because that affects how I act and feel. Mm-hmm. And how I talk to you is going to affect how I'm thinking, acting, and feeling. So it really does matter. And so it's bringing so much to your awareness so we can break things that are bad, create things that are good, stack it. And then before you know it, you start to operate and experience life in a completely new way.
Absolutely. It's like practicing. And if you are going to learn an instrument, you're not going to pick it up and be able to play it beautifully from the beginning. You've got to start at the basics and learn the basics and learn, how to develop music and melodies. Like you have to go back to school. You have to reteach yourself. I find that most people are excellent at self-sabotage. I find that as you said, most of the limits that we set for ourselves are internal and what we tell ourselves, but there's a lot of self-sabotage. Do you find that to be true as well?
Oh, yes, there is either consciously or unconsciously we do it. And you called out something that I definitely want to bold, flashing lights, underscore, and that is part of the learning process is unlearning.
Right. Oh, yes. Oh, my.
How amazing is that?
Yes.
Because I have to unlearn that money doesn't grow on trees,
Right.
or the money is the root of all evil, or insert whatever global limiting belief as well. Because it's not just about you, it's global
Mhm.
limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And then I've got to recognize that. I've got to unlearn that because that's how I'm operating if I believe those things and the, BS belief systems that I've been told or that I've kind of embodied, whether I realize it or not. And then I got to unlearn those things, unlearn how I've been treating myself, unlearn how I view the world. So then I can replace it with new, invigorating beliefs that are serving me, that are
Right.
catalyzing me, allowing me to collapse timelines from where I am to where I want to go. I mean, look at me for an example. I mean, I shared my degrees in crime scene investigation. How
Right.
the hell did I open a business? No one taught me that. I didn't learn business school. I didn't know how to create this podcast. You should have seen me trying to figure this out. I'm like, wait, what do I do and how do I hook? But you don't get caught up in the tyranny of how. Because
Yes.
if your what and why are powerful enough, your reasons come first, your answers come second. It will be ease and flow. I figured it out. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautifully said. Thank you for that. Your what and how and who you are is important enough to move forward from that. I think the youth these days. So, we are talking about ourselves because we're in this place in our lives, our age or whatnot. You look a lot younger than me, but the the youth of now that I see, and I'll put my children in on this, are kind of I want it now type of thing. I need to be famous now. I need to be really smart now. I need to be rich now. I need to have that car, that house, and everything now. And so that's another mindset that I work with in people again in my children that are limiting. I think that's a limiting step too. Do you deal a lot with that as well?
Oh, yes. You
Instant
know,
gratification society.
oh, totally.
Yeah.
And you know what my response to that is I try to make it not about the person because then they can understand it a little bit better. If
Mm,
you were to plant a seed, would you expect, like if you were to plant apple seeds, would you expect that you would have the apple tree the next day?
right.
No, you wouldn't, right? Like you wouldn't expect that. So to grow that life, you got to nurture it. You have to water it. You have to provide it, the necessary elements like, an enriched soil,
Mhm.
sunlight. It needs all the things. We are no different. Life is all around us. We are no different. I have to nurture myself. I have to give myself what it needs, mind, body, and spirit, because I can't neglect one area. You can't do it. You can't shortcut. There's no circumventing this. So when you realize that, like it's not an overnight success, when you see, a famous musician or a famous athlete on the field, that is years of practice, month
Yep.
after month,
Yep.
day after day, hour after hour. I mean, I'm gonna pick on Michael Jordan. Let's just pick basketball. He's famous. We all know him. How
Mhm.
many times he shoot hoop over and over and
Right.
over and over? LeBron James, whoever, pick any football player now. They're practicing continuously at their craft. And then you see the famous quarterback, the famous basketball player, the famous saxophonist, whatever. Like that's what you see the end product of it, but all the work that goes into it. So we can't, this is how you can say it. We romanticize the ending, but we dread the execution.
There you go. Nice.
Flip that baby on its head because what is faith? It's inverted fear. It's fear flipped on its head. So if I just flip that mentally, okay, fear, I'm going to flip you and now I'm in faith. What is faith? I have an internal, unwavering trust that it's going to work out. Now, do you
Absolutely.
think that intention setting in the morning, I'm going to have a kick-ass day? You betcha. Or
Yeah.
if I'm kind of like, my voice is low, my emotions are bad. I wake up in the morning, I think about my problems because that's what we usually do. I'm
Yeah.
not grateful for what I have. I'm not going to have a good day. I'm not going to have as best a day if I'm like, okay, baby, let's get after it. I've got this.
Absolutely. Manifesting your energy right there. You put it out there and it will happen. And I think the part of that instant gratification, I'm going to have it now, of some of the youth is because they see a lot of people who go viral all of a sudden, who just, just put out something and then all of a sudden it gained popularity kind of overnight. And that, the true leaders, the true athletes, that, that fizzles out so quickly. They go viral and then they're gone in an instant, right? But the people who come and stay, I'm a big sports fan. So the Bradys, the Mahomes, the people like that, who really put in that work for not just years, decades, sometimes. The
Yes.
people like me who have done that, this is a large amount of hard work. But how does somebody change? I know there are people who wish they
Mhm.
could do something or look at somebody else and say, wow, they did it. And so I want to be one of those people, but tend to, not be able to face those internal fears. How does somebody flip that around and turn that into a positive note?
Yeah, it really is about, so overcoming is the becoming. It is overcoming yourself, the old you, the old ways, in many way, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but it's a death because
Yeah,
I have to really have an ending. An
true,
ending to my old ways, my old self,
true.
staying up till midnight, binging Netflix, or eating tubs of ice cream, or not eating healthy, or
Yeah,
never working out. I have to kill that part of me
yeah,
to welcome a new energy. I have to have the energetic space to then call in, okay, I am going to go to the gym at 05 because I have a no excuse mentality. I'm going to get it in every day. And
absolutely.
it requires you to not negotiate with yourself. Myself at 10 o'clock at night, I'm not
Yeah,
negotiating with myself at 5 or 6 in the morning. Those are
yeah,
two different me's. I just don't do it. You got to have a non-negotiable. I am not crossing this line. I am drawing the line in the sand, and you have to hold yourself accountable to that.
yeah, you
And
do.
you have to get rid of that old gunk, that stuff that's blocking you and holding that space so then you can have the space to create. Because when we talk about, and I love neuroscience, I joke that maybe I should have a degree in neuroscience because I'm obsessed and I've studied this for so long.
Yeah,
But neurons that fire together wire together. We can create a new brain. We can
right.
absolutely do that. So we
Yeah,
have to be able to strengthen those neural networks. We got to be able to create these new emotions because what is an emotion? It's energy in motion. And what is it? It's a chemical. It's the end product of an experience. So if I can create an amazing experience, I'm going to get an amazing emotion and I'm reprogramming my nervous system, my
yep,
body. I'm having coherence between my brain and my heart. And there's like electromagnetic fields around the both. We've studied this, we've measured it. When
yep,
we're in coherence, we're feeling great. Our nervous system is great. We have clarity. We're able to have these synchronicities and things are in flow. Things are just working out, right? It just feels good because we're taking that time. So one huge modality is meditation.
yes,
It is shutting yourself down, all the stimulus of all the things. I'm taming myself like a wild horse. Sit down and I'm going within. It's why when we say, hey, make a wish, what do? You close your eyes
right.
because you know the answers are within you. And then you have to quiet yourself down. And quiet your mind, body, spirit. Go in, have conversations, really get to know you. If you can't
Yes.
be alone, that is one of the scariest things. Like we need to be alone and get in touch with ourselves because our highest self always knows the answers. So there's a
Always.
lot of modalities with that, but meditation is a surefire way to be able to shut down the engines, recharge, recalibrate, come home, have a remembrance of self, get your brain and heart in coherence, and then you can start to get rid of that old program, create the space to call in things, and then bring that in. And
Absolutely.
one final note on that is meditation can look different. My husband does not sit down and close his eyes. He can't do that. Instead, he goes out in nature here in Montana, and his meditation is being his hands in the dirt in our greenhouse, him being outside breathing in fresh air. To him, that is his meditation. He could not sit down and close his eyes, but he still has those same beautiful effects. So, how we define meditation, getting beyond our analytical mind, how that looks for you could be different, and it's also perfect, and how you could bring that into your world.
Absolutely. I want to go a little further on the kind of the death thought here and do that in just a few minutes. We're going to take a short break here. And when we come back on the other side, I want to touch base on that because I have the story about myself. I think this is very true. The story about myself is I lost 180 pounds. I was 300 pounds, now 120. I lost 180 pounds. And there was that moment that I had, and you described it exactly. So I want to talk about that kind of when we come back. And but first, before we leave, I want people to know where to find you and your information, your social media and all that. Can you give that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is tacticalharmony.com. So I have all, my coaching, my public speaking, keynote speaking services are all listed on my website. My book, Unleash, is on there. I have LinkedIn, so you can find me by my name, Rebecca Fitzsimmons, or Tactical Harmony. Same thing for Instagram, Tactical Harmony. So essentially, if you look up Tactical Harmony, that's the name of my podcast, my website. You can find me on LinkedIn. Everything's going to pop up, and ways that I can serve and support you.
Beautiful. And that will all be on the website. So I will have that for everybody. We are going to take a short break and come back on the other side and continue this beautiful conversation. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is De Novo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness, anxiety, and gloom. What makes De Novo Plus B12 so successful? De Novo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about De Novo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Marianne Pinkston. I am here with Rebecca Fitzsimmons, and this has been a great conversation. Thank you. I'm so glad that you were on this morning because it's a very, very important subject. This is at the basis of everything everybody does, no matter from, like I'll talk about in a minute, weight loss to starting a new business to leaving a bad marriage, whatever it is you're facing at the moment. This is how we develop that courage to get up and do what we want to do and step out there. So I mentioned before the break about the weight loss, and everybody's heard it. My folks who have listened to my podcast have heard this over and over and over. But what I think was very important was the day, I spent 13 years obese, back and forth. I would lose 40, gain 50, lose 60, gain 70. Just back, forth. And it was a horrible mindset of that instant gratification thing that, I'm just going to get on this medicine or this supplement or this diet and I'm going to lose, 60 pounds in 3 months and then I'll be good to go. And I was like, no. Reinvented. There was a death of a person when one day I sat down and I figured out, I'm like, I am absolutely exhausted from feeling like this, that back and forth and that self-sabotage and all those things. Absolutely exhausted for it. I don't want to do this anymore. And then once I got to my goal, and it took a heck of a lot more time than 3 months, and it took me 2 years to do, and it's been 8 years and I've maintained it or whatnot. But now the mindset is I don't ever want to go back to that. But that moment that I sat down and finally just faced it and said, this is ridiculous. I don't want to do this anymore, is when I finally took that large amount of accountability and started getting up at, 5 a.m., whether I liked it or not, and doing the things that I was told to do, lifestyle wise and whatnot, by all the people supporting me, facing an eating disorder, stress eating, night eating, things like that, binge eating. And so it was a shift, and it was a death of a whole way of thinking and a whole person. The reinvention phase was really very interesting, facing a lot of old traumas and things that I had, and, we all have, and, reinventing myself. And so it took 13 years to get to that moment, though. Why does it take people so long to do that?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much to say. Yes, it's all about, everyone has their own time. And I think, and that is all perfect, right? Like perfect doesn't exist, but it's also like, no, this is like how it's meant to happen for you in your human experience. And it really is. And Tony Robbins is famous for saying this. This is not Rebecca, is life happens for me, not to me.
Yeah.
And when we really understand, right, like really embody that, and even if you mildly subscribe to that, you understand that any perceived injustice or thing that is happening, right? Because, and I say perceived because we are meaning makers. I'm assigning an experience as good or bad. Right now, I'm looking at the mountains and the sun is rising, and I think it's beautiful. To somebody else, they could be like, yawn, snooze fast. I'd rather be in the ocean. It's too cold. I hate the white stuff, snow. Like we assign meaning. So if I remove the emotional charge from something, regardless of how many years it might take, and I just look at something for what it is, or I look at it for what it is and better, then my whole experience and how I do anything from weight loss to a career change to, improving and optimizing my health is going to change the game instantly. Because when we're faced with change, which we all are, like that is the only constant, it requires a radical acceptance, but getting leverage on yourself is always so helpful. And a lot of people are like, well, how do I do that? I don't know. I'm like, well, you have something. Everybody has something. And this is going to be an extreme example. But if I were to take a loved one and I'm like, hey, I'm going to hurt this person, and I know this sounds horrible, unless you do this thing, you're going to figure it out. You're going to get the resources. You're going to develop the money. You're going to sell the couch to make $1,000 to be able to afford you will figure it out if it's powerful enough. You have to get that leverage on yourself. Like, oh, I want to quit smoking. Well, what's that leverage? Maybe you had a loved one pass or a friend pass, which is so tragic. What is that leverage you can get on yourself? And so that requires an investigation. That requires you to like come home and figure that out. Because what we all do in this journey is we hit a threshold of ourself, and we can either touch it, softly, gently, and then come back like, oop, nope. It's much easier to binge Netflix or to not, put myself out there or ask the girl, the guy out. We might flirt with it a little bit and we come back. But once we cross it, we realize, oh, it actually wasn't so scary or hard as I made it, right? Because our narrative that we tell ourselves, because again, what does our brain do? It tries to keep us safe. So we always think like, hey, it's going to be so hard. And you know what? It's actually not so bad. You know what? I'm enjoying getting up early. I have more time in my day. I'm feeling better. Holy moly, this is awesome. And then you redefine your relationship because you've crossed that threshold. And what you said, I could never go back. How could I ever go back to that old state, right? Like for me, it's, I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I could never go back. Done is better than perfect. Let's move. Let's keep moving the ball down the field. I could never go back to that part of me that was like trying to dissect and make things just so, being attached to outcomes. Like I've had to transcend absolutely all of that, because at the end of the day, this is what it's about. Yes. What story are you telling yourself? I am a smoker, or I used to smoke. I occasionally smoke. It's two different things. Anything following I am, you're programming your subconscious. It's always listening. It has no sense of humor. It's taking it for what it's worth, right? Like, and we put ourselves through hell because we replay bad experiences, trauma, problems, and your body doesn't know the difference between a real experience and an imagined experience. So you're dumping cortisol and bad chemicals in your body, reliving. So you got to stop that, go to a place of gratitude, because you cannot be angry and grateful at the same time. Those two states can't exist. You raise your vibration and frequency, you're retraining your brain, and then suddenly you start to think clearer. Suddenly you start to take more moves in life that actually support your mind, body, and spirit and how you're holistically leading your life. So then you can lead others, finances, relationships, businesses. Maybe you are in a traditional leadership position. The same principles apply. What story are you telling yourself?
Absolutely. Gosh, that's so true. I'm going to go back and listen to this podcast for myself over and over and over. So love all of this. So, you have, I want to focus on your book for just a minute because you have an interesting title. So you include the canine companions there. So tell me a little bit about how you developed this book, what it's about, and that.
I have a huge smile on my face, y'all. Like, dogs are my heart. They've always been my heart. I love dogs, and everything in life is a teacher. Everything, every experience, every person, every dog. So my book, Unleashed Holistic Leadership Insights from Our Canine Companions, really is about learning from these amazing four-legged teachers and how they organically display a holistic life, mind, body, spirit, mindfulness, gratitude, resilience, discipline, adventure and curiosity, love and connection, influence and inspired action. And then the body, because I divided the book into mind, body, spirit. So the body section, and for the dog lovers, you're gonna love this. Like I title the different chapters, play on words with dogs, like treat yourself, or want to go for a ride, or pause and reflect. And it's really, food is medicine. What we're putting in our bodies, sow the within, sow the without. Internal work drives external results. It starts with you, and then the world is a crystallization of everything that you have manifested and that you've called in. We hold so much power. Dogs know when to rest. Dogs know to go into that ray of sunshine. Because why? Vitamin D is amazing for all the reasons that I'm sure your amazing audience knows. But it also means feel good now. They're not worried about the past. They're not worried about the future. They're anchored in the generous present moment. This is where we can create.
Yeah.
Everything from adventure. They love to go for rides. They love to experience life and have adventure. And they understand discipline, which I define as the ultimate expression of self-love. They have trust, they have respect, they love themselves enough to do whatever we're asking them to do. They form that relationship that doesn't have these rules and constraints that humans put on it. I can only love you if. They don't have that. I could show up looking like crazy or have a bad day, go off track, and my dogs are going to love me unconditionally. We have so much to learn. And so I invite people to look through the lens of dogs and what they do to really anchor in the mind, body, spirit and these holistic leadership principles. And so it was my two passions, holistic leadership and dogs. The beautiful marriage. And that's how I birthed Unleashed into the world. And I just published it. I released it. It's on Amazon in November. Like it just came out.
Just came out. That was wonderful. And that will be, I'll place a link on social media and on the website so people can access it. But really, it's easy. I found it instantly when I went to Amazon. There's not many Unleashed there. And so when you bring it, it comes right up. It's great. So we will have a link anyway. I think it was, I looked through it. I wasn't able to go through it because we set this up rather quickly and I wasn't able to go through it like I would normally. But I didn't catch the reason I was laughing about your chapters being named. I didn't catch that. But like I say, I didn't get to go through it as much as I would have. This brilliant. I love it. It really is very interesting. So I applaud you on that. I think that's a great way of looking at things. We forget to be kids too. So kids can do the same thing, right? And I think we forget to be kids. One of my kind of weird theories is that as we, when we're kids, the world is fresh and new. We're looking at it fresh and new, and what we learn shapes us. And then we're already shaped as we get into our elderly years, but yet we turn into kind of children again, don't we? Mm-hmm. And we take the same, we can, not everybody does, but we can, and when elderly, and I've noticed this in many of the elderly that I see, that they take the same point of views as children of that gratitude and awe and wonder, because they're at a very different, two different stages, but they're both entering into new worlds. And it's absolutely beautiful. The messy middle, a good friend of mine, Lizzie Perez here in town, quotes Brene Brown a lot, and messy middle is one of her principles. And the messy middle is your 20s, 30s, 50s, all the way up. And that's where we really try to figure things out. It's like you really get it when you're little and you really get it when you're old. What can you do with all of that messy middle and make it messy, right?
Yes. One word, focus.
Yeah.
What am I focused on? Because what's wrong is always available, and so is what's right. And that is so important because, again, I always like to anchor it back to really show how important this is. My reticular activating system, which is in my brain, is focused on what I'm focused on. So if I'm thinking about, and I give this example a lot, like a new cell phone, suddenly I hear people talking about it in the grocery store, or if I'm waiting in line to buy something, or I see billboards and oh my gosh, it's everywhere. Everyone has this darn cell phone, or it could be about a car. And you're like, oh my gosh, I see this Bronco everywhere. How wild is that? It's not wild. It was always there. It's always there for you in the quantum field of how I can create. It's your RAS, because our brains can't accept everything. It's got to filter it. So our RAS does its job and it helps us. So what we focus on matters. It's like when you're playing a sport, like let's say hockey, or let's do NASCAR. Like if I'm driving, right, I can't focus on where I don't want to go. I will hit the side of the wall and I will die. I will crash. I cannot do that. I got to focus on where I want to go. I got to focus on, in hockey, where I want to put my puck. I can't focus on where I don't want to go. Yeah. Like this is basic physics. This is basic. It's that simple. And it's that hard. So we have to focus on where we want to go, what we want, our goals, and do that. Like I want you to be obsessed about it. Because then everything starts to fall in line and you start to, oh, how crazy is it that I just got that text message or that email from that person for the one thing I needed? Boom, 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 boom. And then you have a compounding effect. So the messy middle, what are you focused on? What do you let your body get focused on? Because we are in control. So we have to tame ourselves. We have to tame our mind and our body. We have to feed it as well. And what am I putting in it? Not just food, but like my relationships. They're mirrors. Proximity is power. Are they toxic or are they serving me? And so when we talked about that death, it really is death of a lot of things. Because as you ascend, not everyone is going to be able to come along. You're going to get some altitude sickness. One of my colleagues always says this, you're not going to be able to come up. So I'm going to serve you. I'm still going to help you, but I'm still going to climb that mountain. And I love that analogy from David Kitchen. I want to give him full credit for that, because as you ascend, not everyone's going to come along that journey. And so we need to make peace with this. And I actually talk about that in my book. Not everyone is going to make it along with you. They serve their purpose in that season of life. Maybe they were a hater. Maybe they were a lover. Maybe they were whatever role they played. And we bless them and we release them with love because they taught us something. Because there are no bad days. There's only character building days. So I was taught something. I strengthened or built grit and resilience muscles. I learned something from that, a lesson or a blessing, always. And then I moved on. And then I moved on, another level, another devil. And we just keep going and going and going and going.
You've got some great one-liners. These all need to go. I hope you've written every one of those, because those are beautiful. This is, we've gone for almost 40 minutes here, and I'm just,
oh my gosh,
I love it. Absolutely amazed. And I think we could go another 10 hours, no problem. This has been absolutely wonderful. Where can people find you? And again, repeat, I know we had it before, and this will all be on the website, but where can people find you?
Yes, thank you so much. Tacticalharmony.com is my website. It's the name of my business and my podcast. So on my website, you'll find all of my coaching and speaking services, my podcast, my book. You can grab my book on Amazon, Unleashed, Holistic Leadership from our Canine Companions. And I'm on LinkedIn, a huge presence on LinkedIn. So you can look up my name, Rebecca Fitzsimmons, or Tactical Harmony, and you'll find me there. Tactical Harmony is my Instagram handle. I'm very active on Instagram. And I do have a Twitter account, not as active, but again, Rebecca Fitzsimmons. And yeah, I would be honored to support or serve anybody. That's what it's about. My what and why. It's service and doing good in the world. That's what it's about.
You are a beautiful soul and very good at that. You've inspired me this morning, and this audience is going to love this show. Thank you so, so much. And all of that will be on my website, and you can find all of my social media and all of our previous shows. I'm on YouTube and iTunes, Spotify, and then all the other podcast media. Those are the most popular. But go to drpbetterlife.com. You can find all of that information and more. And Rebecca, thank you. This has absolutely been beautiful, beautiful, almost hour for us, but I really appreciate you coming on. How's the weather in Montana? Is everything okay? Are you deep in snow or?
Yeah, I have a lot of snow and mountains and it's beautiful. We love the winter here, so it's feeling good. Beautiful blue sky day here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, enjoy your beautiful day. And thank you again for blessing all of us with your presence. And everybody go get that book. It starts very quickly and it's great. You'll get deep very quickly. Go get that. I'll have that on the website, drpbetterlife.com. Have a fantastic day.